Guys, all the cars that you see in these videos are for sale on my website, www.woodsandbarclay.com. Enjoy the video. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I have the 83 300D back here at my shop, and I do have it covered with plastic because Scott is done with the detailing stage and I don't want to get any dust or debris or anything on the car. But today we're going to knock out a few items. One, I want to do a valve adjustment and new valve cover gasket. Two, I want to clean out the fuel level sending unit that's in the tank. It controls the fuel gauge. Those often get dirty, and just over the years, diesel's dirty and it gets a lot of gunk in them, so I always like to clean those out. And three, I want to remove and replace the cruise control module. So let's go ahead and get started. And as you can see, guys, the zinc plating is still on this car, so I've decided I don't want to remove this and replate it because these cars are only original once, and this is just a very nice original example. So first thing we want to do here for our valve adjustment is we want to go ahead and start removing some of this, some of these throttle linkage components so we can get our valve cover off. And these are reusable zip ties. So I'm just going to grab that zip tie, pull it off there. We want to reuse our original clip. And I'm just going to remove it right here from the top. There we go. And we're just going to slide this out of the way. Let's see. There we go, right like that. I'll just keep our zip tie there. Let's go ahead and undo our vacuum lines. And the vacuum lines, the way they go, see, this one has a stripe on it, and this one's clear. It goes clear, black, and then clear with the stripe, and it goes in the top holes. So we'll go ahead and pull that off of here. There we go. All right. Now we want to disconnect our linkage right over here. There we go, get that one off, and we'll disconnect our linkage right here. There we go. And there we go. I think that valve cover is now ready to come off. Now, to make it a little easier, I'm actually going to just remove this main linkage assembly right here and lift it off the valve cover. And there we go. This can just come off of here. That makes it easier to clear the air cleaner housing when you remove your top linkage. All right, so next, and a lot of people don't do what I'm about to do, guys, because you can get the valve covers off just like it is right now. Actually, I have to disconnect the this linkage right here from the side, but I'll do that in a second. But it makes it way easier to remove the valve cover if you simply just unbolt the cruise control actuator here. We can just set it to the side because it's really easy to take off. It's only 3 10-millimeter bolts, and it comes right off. And there we go. And then we can just simply set this to the side right here, and it's out of the way. And then we can proceed to remove the valve cover. Now, one more thing I want to do is remove this E-clip right here and disconnect our throttle linkage so I can pull this valve cover off. Okay, we do want to remove the throttle linkage here. There's just a little E-clip right here, which we can pry off of here. Now, if you drop it, you can replace it. You know, sometimes these go flying across the room. We'll just set that over here. And we're going to pull that back. And here we go. Pull out our cotter pin back here. Here we go. There we go. And then we can just slide this out of the way. And there we go. Our valve cover can now be lifted off the engine. Let me just get this out of the way here. There we go. We'll just set it right like that. All right, to get the valve cover off, it's 4 13mm nuts. And you just undo them. And we can slip this guy right off of here. And there's one, put that there, and there's one back here on the back side. All right, once those 4 nuts are removed, we can just lift the valve cover straight off of here. And there's our old valve cover gasket that actually stayed on there. So let's get that thing off of here. And there we go. Now let's go ahead and do a quick inspection of the upper valve train. All right, what I like to do next, guys, is just come in here and look at all the cam lobes. Look how clean that cam lobe is. There's no scratching or scoring. Yeah, these are beautiful condition. There you go. There's a good shot. Look how clean and nice that is. If you ever see like excessive scratching or scoring on here, it's because there's dirty oil in the car and they weren't doing regular oil changes. And this looks absolutely beautiful. Timing chain, beautiful condition. It's not loose at all. Yeah, that's just fantastic. Low mileage, very clean 617 engine. That's exactly what we want to see. So it looks great up here. Now we want to go ahead and dive into a valve adjustment. Now I'm going to start right here. And I'm not going to record all of this, guys, because I have several videos out there that show valve adjustments. But see how this cam lobe is up about the 12 to 1 o'clock position? That means the base of the cam lobe is on the rocker arm. And when the base of the cam lobe is on the rocker arm, there should be a small gap right there that you can put a feeler gauge through. That means there should be a little bit of clearance. Now, how do you know what that clearance is? It tells you right here. Valve lash at water temperature below 30 degrees. That means on a cold engine. You always want to do your valve adjustment on a cold engine. The intake valves are 0.10 millimeter. The exhaust valve are 0.35 millimeter. So if we go back and look at our valves, there's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We want to do number 7. We want to adjust that first. And over here, I have my little engine layout diagram. I got this from Kent Bergsman out at Mercedes Source maybe like 15 years ago. And I've just always used it. It's just a quick reference. We look here. There's the front of the engine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We know the valve that we want to adjust is an intake valve, IN. Next one, see, is an exhaust. And an intake valve tells us right there, 0.10 millimeters on the intake. See, right there. So let's get our feeler gauge. Let's stick it in there and let's see where we are right now. My guess is it's going to be tight because it may need a valve adjustment. Okay, now keep in mind, I bought this from the mechanic shop that was servicing the vehicle, and the vehicle was very well serviced. But I don't know if they have already done this valve adjustment. So here's our 0.10 millimeter feeler gauge, and if that's correctly adjusted, this should slide in there. Oh, look at that, guys. Perfect. That is perfectly adjusted. There we go. See, just a little bit of drag. Okay, so what I want to do, I need to rotate the engine, go check the rest of these. My guess is that Nick already did a valve adjustment on here, but I just have to confirm it. So I'm going to go ahead, rotate the engine through the rest of these. I'm going to check a few more of them. If I have 5 or 6 of them that come back as in adjustment, then I know I don't need to do anything, and we'll just install a new valve cover gasket and put our valve cover back on. Okay guys, I'm just gonna show you how I rotate the crank. And what I have down here on the front of the engine, right here, I have a 1 1/16 socket. Okay, right there, you can barely see it. I have a 1 1/16 socket on the front bolt of the crankshaft pulley. And what that allows me to do is I can rotate the engine clockwise. Now I've rotated the engine over, and just an example, now we have this valve lobe. See the cam lobe pointing up about the 12 to 1 o'clock position? And this one's an exhaust valve. Let me get my feeler gauge in here. Bam, look at that. That is a perfect valve adjustment. So, like I said, I think this has already been adjusted. Let me check a few more, and we will just confirm that. All right, guys, I've gone through, checked the valves, and it is very clear that a valve adjustment was recently done on this engine because everything is in perfect adjustment. So we actually don't have to adjust any of these valves, but it's always good to check this. And you want to do this, some people say like every 15,000 miles, and from my experience, that's just simply not true. Once these cars have a little mileage on them, I think everything settles down. And you can check them every, 20,000, 25,000 miles. And at that point, you usually find like 2 or 3 that need adjustments. So they're pretty stable after, I guess, on the lower mileage cars, you might have to do it a little sooner. But as I said, once you get some miles on them, things tend to wear in and settle down a little bit. So we're going to put on a new valve cover gasket, get our valve cover back on, and lubricate our throttle linkage. Okay guys, there's the valve cover. Before I put it back on, I want to go ahead and clean it up in the parts washer there. And temporarily, I've just covered the top of the engine with some microfiber towels, just so, no dust or debris or anything falls on there. But what I also want to do, we can see here, these are the diesel injector return hoses. And none of them are leaking, but they look to be a little old. See how they faded? They're not dark black. And the aftermarket stuff, there we go. That's what it looks like when it's new. But I like to use the genuine Mercedes stuff just because it lasts a lot longer, several years when you use the genuine Mercedes stuff. And you can go buy this at your dealership, guys. And the real stuff, I think it's made by Colleen, but the real stuff has like a little orange stripe and it's gray. And versus the black aftermarket stuff. So I want to go ahead and replace all these return injector lines. So we're going to go ahead and do that shortly. For now, I'm going to go ahead and move to testing the cruise control actuator. And here's our cruise control actuator right here. Now I have a special genuine Mercedes tool that I can plug in under the dash and actually electronically test this to make sure it works. Because if this works, then we're all good with the actuator. See, this arm moves here, and it actually pulls on the throttle linkage. So we're going to test, make sure that works before I go to replace the actual cruise control module. Let me show you what a cruise control module looks like. This is the electromechanical, I think that's the right word. Like, here we go. Here's a bad one. It needs to be rebuilt. But these modules are up under the dash. You can see I have a lot of them here. And that module, like 90% of the time, that's why your cruise control doesn't work. Sometimes it's this actuator, and if that's the case, we'll install a replacement actuator. Okay, here is our genuine Mercedes tool. And, excuse me, you can see there's a Mercedes logo. And guys, unfortunately, that part number has worn off. So if you're searching for this tool, that's as best as I can get you right there. It's called a tempo mat. But right there, you see it shows our stalk. That's our cruise control stalk in the car. And then M, this is our motor. So when we actuate the stalk, we should get lights here. Shows us that our stalk is correctly working. And then we can press the motor button and we can actuate the actual cruise control actuator under the hood. So let me go plug this in and I'm going to show you how we test this. So those actuators are located under the under dash kick panel. And what we have to do, we have to remove our little screw covers right here, here, and right over there. Pop those out, and then there's a plastic screw here and over here. We need to drop this panel down, and then we can unplug the cruise control module and plug in our tool. All right, so the tools you need for this, all you need is a little pick and a Phillips screwdriver. I'll see if I can demonstrate. Probably not the best view, but you use your little pick to get these, there you go. See these little plastic clips? They come off and your screw is exposed there. Once you have those off, you can undo the kick panel screws. Here we go. 1, 2. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and leave that center one sort of intact, you know, hanging in there. That way I can remove these under here and it doesn't fall on me. There we go. Now, what this is, that's a little plastic screw. You turn it 90 degrees and it has these little teeth in it that lock it into place. It's a plastic retainer. And there's another one. We have to push our emergency brake in. There we go. And you guys can't see it, but the other one is right back there. All right, good. We got that one out. And notice it didn't fall on me. That's why I leave this center one intact. When we take out the center one, oh, there we go. And then this can fall down. You got to grab the air duct over here and you pull in your air duct. There we go. And then you can pull this out. There we go. Wow, look at the amazing. This has never been out of the car. Look how beautiful that is. All the original insulation is still perfectly intact. All right, let me show you guys. There's some insulation right there. That's great. All that stuff. Wow, it looks so nice under here. Let me show you this stuff. All right, we'll get down here under the car, or under the dash. Guys, look how beautiful this is. It's never been disturbed. All the original wiring, all the original tape, zip ties. Look at that. It looks brand new. But right here, that's our cruise control module. So to test it, we need to unplug it. Let's see if I can do this with you guys on camera here. All right, there we go. Now we want to plug our tool in right here to test our actuator. And if our actuator is good, we know we need to remove this module and have it rebuilt, which I order these from Beckman Technologies, and they'll just ship me one, and I'll send this back as a core for them to rebuild. All right, guys, we have our tool plugged in. We can see we have all the lights lit up. So what I want to do, first I want to test our stalk. So if we move our stalk up, see we get a green light there. Down, forward, backward. Okay, good. We know the stalk works. Next thing we want to test is our motor. So let me see if I can walk around here. Now I'm going to press the motor button, and we want to see that actuator move. Okay, perfect. That actuator is perfect condition. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. So, cool. Our test module, our testing tool has confirmed that the reason our cruise control doesn't work is the module right here. And like I said, 90% of the time, that's the problem. So let's get this out and replace it. Okay, guys, so this is easy to remove. However, it's difficult getting access to the one 10mm nut you have to remove. This is the contraption I came up with years ago that fits exactly. It's like a little adapter to my wrench with this like hand socket with a small socket, hand socket tool with a small socket attached. And the reason is we have to go up behind the steering column here, and right, see if I can show you guys. There we go. You can barely see it. Right there is the 10mm nut we need to get access to. And I'm going to see if I can hold this camera for you guys and show you how to do this. So you got to come up around here. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this or not. There we go. I am on that nut, and see how that's like a perfect fit around the steering column. And then we can unscrew that. There we go. There it goes. Actually, I can hold the camera. There we go. We got it. Okay, now right there, it just fell down there. So there's our cruise control module, and I like to leave, there we go, there's that little nut we needed to get access to. Wow, look how beautiful it is in there. Anyway, I like to leave my tool attached to it, just like that, so it's easier to install. Now our module, there's a bracket. There we go, a Phillips head there, and Phillips head there. And you want to note the orientation. So see this little tab? And that's the nut that we pulled out. If you notice the orientation, the tab is at the bottom. Your connecting pins are at the top. And if you note that before doing this, you'll be able to, because you can install it backwards and you'll be wondering why can you not get it back into the car. So that's the correct orientation when you go to reinstall this. So let's flip it around. Take these nuts out of here, or take these screws out of here. All right, one more thing I want to show you guys. You are not going to be able to get these screws out with a hand screwdriver. From the factory, those are in there so tight. Just to save you some trouble, go ahead and use an electric wrench. Now when you put them back in, you don't have to crank them down as tight. That's just a little tip that I've learned over the years. Don't drive yourself crazy trying to get those out by hand. See how tight they are in there? Got it. That one broke loose. There we go. All right, we'll just leave those on the floorboard. Here's our cruise control module. Okay, here's what you need to pay attention to when you order one of these. If you look right here, there we go. There's the number 001 545 7932. You need to order the same number module because there were like 3 different versions of this from like 82 to 85. So we're going to go into the Beckman website, order this module, and we should get that in like Tuesday. All right, guys, there's one more thing I want to address. Now we can see, if you watch the fuel gauge, there we go. We can see the fuel gauge and the reserve light, the orange light. They correctly light up, and they're correctly lights up, and the gauge correctly works. However, this is a common maintenance item that you always want to do if you've picked up a diesel Mercedes. What we're going to do is go back here and remove the fuel level sending unit. Also, I want to reapply the sticker on the first aid kit. You can see that sticker pulled off. But what we do, we take out the first aid kit, and there are 4 screws. 2 screws. We take those 2 out, and we can lift this box out, and the fuel level sender that controls your gauge is located under there. We want to clean that out, and that's a common maintenance item. You don't need to do it really more than once, but if you've never done it on your car, go ahead and do it, or your fuel gauge will stop working. And here are the tools you're going to need. Now, this is a special socket to remove it. I ordered this from Kent out at Mercedes Source. You can probably make it yourself. It looks like it's a, what is that, 1 13/16. And it looks like he cut it off a little or something. But I just ordered that from Kent. And then you're going to need a stubby screwdriver. Let me show you how. Okay, first we'll come up here. And you just want to take these 2 screws out. Okay, now once that's out, you can lift up. There we go. And we're just going to pull that out. We'll set it right there. And then we have access right there to our fuel level sending unit. It just goes down in the tank. You don't need to unplug your battery or anything. You can just unplug this guy, set it aside, and now we want to take this out. Okay, now you can see our socket right here fits right over it. And then we just need to put our wrench on there and loosen that up. You also want to have a rag just so you can wipe off any diesel that drips back here. So, and you don't want to, be careful, you don't want to bust out your rear window. You don't want to hit it with this tool. There we go. All right, that's now loosened up. All right, take our tool out. Now here's where you want to get your rag. We're quickly just going to pull this out onto our rag. There we go. And here we go. It's going to drain. It's got a drain hole right here. It's going to drain the diesel out. Then we're going to get this on the bench and disassemble it and just clean any gunk out of there from just years of old dirty diesel. All right, before we get to cleaning that off, I want to apply a new sticker to our first aid kit. There we go. All right, guys, here we have the fuel sending unit over here at the parts washer. And you need a special tool. This is just a regular screwdriver that I took a cutoff wheel and cut a slot in like that. And that allows us to get around the nut right down here on the bottom. There we go. And then we can unscrew this. There we go. All right, there we go. We got our nut. That's off of there, and our little plate. Look at all that gross stuff that comes off of there. We're just going to set this aside. And now we can actually push out the fuel sending unit. There we go. And I'm going to show you while we clean these. There we go, guys. Look at that old diesel gunk buildup down there at the bottom. See all that? We want to clean that gunk off of there, and these things will be good as new for many more years. Now, actually, this one, I can see, yeah, this one actually has a broken line here. There's these little copper lines that run through here. So, instead of cleaning this one, I'm going to clean it up and repair it. But, so for this car, we're going to go ahead and install a brand new one. Here's a brand new one from the Mercedes dealer. So we're going to go ahead and install that in the car, and I'll go ahead and clean that up and repair that, and we'll use that in the future because these are repairable and rebuildable. All right, guys, we have our new sending unit here. Got our Mercedes part number on there. And let's just go ahead and slip this down in here. Let's see, there we go. And we want to test it out before we put everything back together. So let me get it screwed back down in here. Sometimes they're a little tricky. There we go, got it to go back in there. And we got to give it a minute to fill up with diesel. And I'm going to go ahead and just plug it back in. There we go. And let's test this out before we put all this back together and tighten it down. Okay, so we've had time for that sending unit to completely fill up with diesel and the bobber to come all the way up. And we can see now that the gauge is now reading correctly. A minute ago it was a little bit low, and that's because it was still filling up with diesel. So we are good to go there. All right, we got all that put back together. Got our new sticker on there and got our sending unit back in. And today is actually Saturday, so I can't order the, or I can't mail off the cruise control unit. I'm sorry, not the cruise control unit. I can't pick up the valve cover gasket until Monday, and I need to place an order for the cruise control module. So I'll be back in a second. We got to wait a couple of days, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, here we are back at the shop. It's Monday. I went and picked up our valve cover gasket. Guys, I use L-Ring or Victor Rines, either one. They're both equally as good. Doesn't matter which brand you use. But let's go ahead and get this cleaned up in the parts washer. Take our cap off here before I put it down here in the parts washer. And let's get this cleaned up. There we go. Very nice. Now, sometimes guys will polish these valve covers, and guys, I do not do that because these valve covers were not polished from the factory, and I like them. They're just, I like them how they are. They're just cast aluminum. All right, let's get our valve cover gasket and get this back on the car. All right, there we go. All right, when you're putting your valve cover gasket back on, you just want to make sure the vacuum lines are out of the way. We'll kind of tuck that over there like that. And this line in the back, that's your overboost protection line right there. Comes from the back of manifold. Kind of want to get around that also. Okay, now once you get it on there, you want to make sure your gasket did not fold under and nothing got pinched. And you just want to check around, because if your gasket folded under anywhere, you're going to have a horrible oil leak. And there we go. That's on there good. Let's go ahead and get the nuts back on there, and then we'll reassemble our throttle linkage. Now guys, you don't have to crank these down. You just want to snug everything up. There we go. That's good. Okay, I've got my throttle linkage, and just going to go ahead, set everything right back up here. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is aluminum, so you don't want to crank these down crazy tight. You just want to snug them up. That's it. All right, next thing we want to do is put our main linkage back into place. This comes from the firewall. All right, let's get this up here. Now, before I reinstall this, I just want to lubricate the shaft here. And I like to lubricate it with a little automatic transmission fluid. There we go. Slip that back in there. I'll lubricate up here a little bit and back here. And I just like to put a little bit on all the joints. All right. And let's go ahead and snap this guy back on. Yeah, we'll snap this guy back on. There we go. Okay, perfect. Let me put the E-clip and the cotter pin back in, then we need to remount our cruise control linkage. Here we go. Perfect. Extremely smooth actuation. Excellent condition. All right, let's go ahead. Put back in our Bowden cable. There we go. There's where our Bowden cable goes. And this controls the shift points of the transmission. And I'll show you how to adjust that. All right, right here. So you see that little, there's a stop right there. See how that stops on there? Now you want to have, see if I can show it under here. Well, you can't really see it, but you want to have 1 millimeter of clearance. That's the correct adjustment. Let's see, there we go. Now I can see it's adjusted a little too tight because there's no clearance right there. So you can do that by turning the adjustment screw right here. All right, I've got this adjusted, and we can see that millimeter of clearance? That's about where you want it. That way there's no tension on here, until we actually get under throttle and actually pull the throttle. So good, we are done with that. All right, next we just want to reconnect our vacuum lines. And the one with the red stripe goes on the top left. And then we have the black one in the middle and the white one on the right. And that's what's under here. It's a little 3-tube valve, and this controls vacuum flow to the valve and over to the EGR. All right, good. Now, let's put back in our cruise control. And remember, that was just 3 10mm nuts. Now, actually, before I put the cruise control back in, I want to go ahead. I'm going to replace, remember the flexible diesel return hoses? There's one right there. So when the cruise control is out, I can easily just access that. Now, there's a little clip right behind here that the hose goes through. And when the cruise control module is moved over to the side, it's easier to route it through that little clip. There you go. That's the little clip I'm talking about. Okay, you see all our little hoses that go along here. The way you get those off, usually stuck on there pretty good. Just use a set of needle nose and you can pull them off there. We'll get this one off here. And sometimes they break at the base. There we go. And you have to... Okay, there we go. I just pulled that guy off of there. And there's our little nipple for the new hose to attach. So let's go ahead and cut this hose to length. Okay, so we have our new hose and we're just going to hold it next to our old hose. Now remember, we had to cut off a little piece at the end that was still stuck on there, so I'll make it a little long like that. And we'll just go down our new hose here. There we go. Now we're just going to fresh razor blade and you just slice right through it. All right, and there's the new hose we'll install. I'm just going to show you how to install one, guys, and then I'll go ahead and knock out the rest. All right, little trick that I learned. I use a little bit of motor oil and I just squirt a little oil on the end there. That makes it slip on easier. And let me see if I can zoom in and kind of show you how this goes on here. Right here you have your nipple and you just put that on there. You twist. You want it to go all the way down. There we go. Right like that. Easy enough. And I'm showing you guys this because this is a common maintenance item. Every couple of years you got to replace these. Then we're just going to go through our loop here and let's move our cruise control out of the way and put a little motor oil on there, and then we'll put it right through. There we go. All right, there we go. We have that new line installed. There you go. That's the final return line that comes back to the filter and then goes back to the tank, because that's for any excess diesel that is not burnt. They come back through the lines, back to the filter housing, and then back to your tank. All right, I got to go ahead and take the rest of these off and change them. I'll show you when I'm done. All right, before I start on that, I went ahead and reattached our cruise control, and we're just going to lubricate our linkage here with a little transmission fluid. Pull that around here. All right, there we go. All the linkage is complete. All right, guys, I am done with all the diesel return hoses. And I also did, right here on the back, there's a capped line that's about 1 inch long. I also took the cap off and put it, or plug, and put it in a new line there. So that's good to go for several years. Now, there's one last thing I wanted to check on this car, and that is the monovalve insert. The monovalve insert is found right here, and we just need to unplug the 12-volt power. And you will see 4 little regular flathead screwdriver. And we take those out, and there's the top of the insert. And under here is a little rubber boot. And if that boot is torn, it will disrupt how the coolant flows through the heater core and can cause your AC to have erratic behavior. So let me go ahead, take those 4 little screws out, pull that out, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, it's pretty easy to remove the insert. First, we start by just peeling off this little hood gasket or hood sealing grommet there. And then we can get access, there we go, to these 4 screws. So we're going to take them out. Now you want to do this on a cold engine because coolant goes through here and you'll get coolant shooting out everywhere if you don't do it on a cold engine. There we go. You can see a little coolant's coming out. And there we go. Now, let me get this over to the bench so we can inspect it. All right, do this right here. Now this is a little electromagnetic coil, and the monovalve insert can actually slide out. So let's go ahead and take a look at this guy. Okay, there we go. Now, you see there's a little boot, and this is a plunger. When power is applied, the plunger shoots down and it closes off a orifice in there and blocks coolant flow unless the AC work. And I can actually see, yeah, this has already been replaced at some point because it's in excellent condition. There's no rips, tears, nothing wrong with this at all. So that's just a inspection. We're actually just going to put this right back in the car. Okay, yeah, I got this reassembled. Like I said, excellent condition mono valve. That boot is excellent, no ripping or tearing anywhere. So let's just go ahead and reinstall this. And it simply just goes right back down in there. And we'll just put I like to get the screws threaded by hand first because they're little, you don't want to drop them. All right, now we just hook back up our 12-volt power. That just snaps on there, and we reapply our hood gasket. All right, guys, that is it for this video. The only thing you didn't see me do is reinstall the cruise control module, which you saw me remove it. Installation is exactly the same way, and that's going to be here in a couple of days. So I'm just going to reinstall that, and then that'll get our cruise control working. And then we are officially done with the 1983 300D. So stay tuned. We'll do the test drive and walk around video. Take care.